Video number 2. So again, by now you should know what topics are going to be there. And again, let's just make a checklist. Make sure you know you're comfortable with every topic. And again, this one, when we do it, obviously when you're doing the review, none of them are multiple choice, but on your test, most of them are multiple choice, so it's definitely easier because you can judge by the multiple choice as to what answers you should be looking for. Okay, so let's start right away. And again, like I said in the first video, use your calculator. You're going to be able to use your calculator on the test. So here, first thing I would do is this. I would change that 2 squared to 4. Order of operation tells me I got to do these two first, right? So it's 24 minus 36 times 9. 36 times 9, I have no idea. It's 9 times 6 is 54, goes 5, 27 plus 5, 324. Divided by 4, and this is a good problem to use a calculator because you're going to divide 324 by 4, and for some reason I'm not using mine. It's going to be 81. So 24 minus 81, again, you can use a calculator, but we know that's going to be the difference between those two numbers. 11 minus 4 is 7, 7 minus 2 is 5, but it's going to give us negative 57. Okay, number 2, do not do the distributive property. Okay, use order of operations. 3 to the third power is 27, minus, and 7 times 3 is 21. I can take care of those two first, plus 12. 5 times, and then again, 27 minus 21, do that, which is 6, and then plus 12. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 12 is 42. No need for calculators in this one. Bottom one, negative 53 minus 6 squared is 36. We're going to then divide that by 18, minus 32. Negative 53, divide those two, you get 2, minus 32. So now it becomes just a nice, easy subtraction problem, in which you can definitely use your calculator. Negative 53 minus 2 is negative 55, minus 32, which is going to give us negative 87. Negative 7 to the second power is negative 2 times negative 7 times negative 7. This actually will become positive. Remember, we're raising everything inside the parentheses to the second power, so even the minus sign is included. Minus 4 times, and then it's 7 inside, minus 4 to the second power is 16. Continue, 49 minus 4. And then 7 minus 16 is negative something, negative 9. And 49, and again, we can do this. A negative times a negative is a positive, and I get plus 36. Final answer, 585. Okay. So just take everything step by step. Use your calculator as your tool. Make sure this is being recorded, and it is. Change this to an algebraic expression, and we're going to get that 5 increases plus. Product means multiplying, so I'm multiplying two things, m and 9, and we're going to write that as 9m, and that's our final answer. 4 is 4, less than is subtraction. Sum means I'm adding two things, a number, 2 and a number I'm adding, right? But if I leave it like this, this actually says 4 minus 2 and that m, but I don't want to do 4 minus 2. I want to do 4 minus whatever the sum of these two. Ask yourself if you're done, and you're not done because the word is less than. So do a little switch here. Parentheses again, minus 4. 3 times the difference, so 3 times the difference. The difference means subtraction of y and 6. Right, so you gotta do the subtraction first, subtract y minus 6, and then multiply by 3. So, but if you leave it as it is right now, this says 3 times y, and then subtracts 6, which is not what you want. You want to find the difference between these two numbers first, and then multiply by 3. So your answer should be that. Last one, this sum So we're adding two things, sum twice a number. So who are we adding? Twice a number is this, and 9, and then we're going to divide that whole thing by 6. Same thing as the previous problem, the previous review sheet, so a lot of these questions will be repetitive. Give you an extra practice. Here we have a triangle, which I will draw. And it says that this is 2.5m plus 1.8w. That size represented by that expression. 4.2m minus 9.1y, and then the other one is 17y minus 9w. So these are the sides of my triangle, and I want to find the perimeter, so I got to add all three sides. So 17y minus 9w, and I'll put parentheses, plus this side, plus 1.8w, and then plus the last guy here, which is 4.2m minus 9.1y. So I have to remove the parentheses, but since they're all being added, everything's going to come out the same way. Plus 2.5m plus 1.8w plus 4.2m minus 9.y. So find your like terms. This is a y, and there's one y over here, so I'm going to write them together. So I get 17y minus 9.1y. Change colors. Is there a w? Yes, there's one w here and another w here. So it's minus 9w plus 1.8w. And the last thing I have is, change colors again, is plus 2.5m plus 4.2m. When I subtract these two, good time to use a calculator. 17 minus 9.1y should be 8. No, sorry. Should be 7.9y. Minus 9, so it's negative 9 plus 1.8 should give you 7.2. Negative 7.2w. And plus, these are two positives, so it makes life easier. 2.5 plus 4.2 is just simply plus 6.7. Yep. So it's a great time to use a calculator here. Okay. So again, we have a rectangle, and we want to come up with an expression that represents the perimeter. So it says the length, which is the top and the bottom here, the length is actually represented by 1 less than 3 times the width. So 1 less than 3 times the width is actually written as 3w minus 1, because less than, we have to switch the order. So this is 3w minus 1, this is 3w minus 1, and our width is just width. If I were to come up with an expression, it'd be 3w minus 1, and you know what, I'm going to use this times 2, right, because there's 2 of them, plus 2 times the other two sides, because there's 2 of them, 2w. Simplify, 2 times 3w is 6w, 2 times negative 1 is 2, and 2 times, sorry, we're not going to multiply, and then it's just 2w at the end. Combine like terms, 6w plus 2w is 8w minus 2. So the perimeter is represented by this particular expression. Part B says if the width is 8, find the perimeter of the rectangle. So if the width is 8, so I'm going to replace that w with an 8, and 8 times 8 is 64, and minus 2 gives us 62. So the perimeter is 62 units. Okay. Okay, that's it. 5. Try to make the video a little faster. Determine if the expressions are equivalent. So we have 4 different expressions. I'm going to rewrite them all. 4y minus 8 2 parentheses 7y minus 8, negative 8 plus 14y, and last one 16 minus 8 minus 2y. So are any of these the same as the other one, just written in a different manner? Well, 14y minus 8. Let's take this guy here. So I'll start with this. Is there any of them that look like this? Well, this one I don't know. So let me just do the distributive property. 2 times 7y is 14y. And 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. So definitely these two are not alike. What about this one? Is 14 minus y the same thing as negative 8 plus y? It is. Because let me write this like this. Let me write this as an addition problem. 14y plus negative 8. If I were to change, and you know that addition is commutative, so if I were to change the order, right, I can actually write negative 8 in the front plus 14y, right? It means the same thing, right? So 14y minus 8 is the same thing as negative 8 plus y, so you can already tell that this guy and this guy are the same. And last one, let's see if this is the same as anyone. So 16 minus 8 minus 2y, 16 minus 8 I can combine and I get 8. Minus 2y does absolutely nothing. Does that look like anybody else? No. So the only two expressions that are equivalent are this one and this one, the first and the third. So make sure you know how to explain this, because you will definitely need to do that and prove why they are equivalent to each other. Find the perimeter of a square if the side, so again, always draw, makes life easier. So this is 4m plus 1, which means this is 4m plus 1, and this is 4m plus 1. And that's 4m plus 1. So it's 4 times 4m plus 1, make life easier here. 4 times 4 is 16m, and then 4 times 1 is 4. So the perimeter can be represented by this expression, or you could have just added 4m plus 1 plus 4m plus 1 plus 4m plus 1 plus 4m plus 1, write that long expression, combine the like terms, and you get the same answer. Okay, here comes the long part of the video. Now, I noticed some of you talking in class, and I think one of you guys said that this is pretty much what you had on that quiz the other day. Okay, all the topics are the same. So, again, I can't combine anything because I have to apply the distributive property, so I'm going to get 10k, negative and negative is positive, plus 30, minus 7k. I combine 10k minus 7k, and that's going to give us 3k plus 30. That's easy enough. There's a negative, a minus sign in front, so let's put a 1 here. If I do the distributive property, negative 1 times 3, 1. 3m is negative 3m, and negative times a negative is a positive, so that becomes plus 8y. Negative 2 and 5 is negative 10m, and negative 2 and negative 11 is positive 22. I can combine negative 3 and negative 10m. It's going to give me negative 13m. And then positive 8y plus 22 don't combine, so I'm just going to copy both of them. Not combine, put them to the expression, and my final answer looks like that. It's quite a lot of these. All right. Same thing. So I get 30h, negative and negative, minus 10w. Positive and negative is negative 15h. And then finally, positive and negative is negative 5w. Combine like terms. Do I have anything? I have the 30h and the 15h, but it's 30 positive and negative 15. So 30h minus 15h is just 15h. Negative 10w and minus 5w, if you write them side to side, it becomes negative 10 and minus 5 becomes negative 15w. So will we write this? Minus 6m plus 5m minus 7. Combine these two. Oops. All the way up to here. There are more positives, and there's 11 more positives. Negative 6m plus 5m, there's more negatives. One more negative, so it's just negative m or 1m. And then the minus 7 comes at the end. So let me write all these next to each other. So negative m plus 0.3m minus m minus m. So actually, what I'm going to do is going to put negative m, right? This one. I'll put these and these next to each other. Then I'll put the plus 0.3m and minus 0.5y. So I already know that this guy here at the end is not going to combine with anything, so that's just going to remain the same. But there's a 1 here, right? Negative 1m, negative 1m, negative 1m. So negative 1 minus negative 1 minus negative 1 gives me negative 3m. Then I'm going to add that to 0.3m. There are definitely more negatives, so this answer is going to be negative. And negative 3 plus 0.3 is just going to be negative 2.7. Okay, so that's my value here. Okay, so again, in a calculator, you could have just written negative 1 minus negative 1 minus negative 1, and then plus 0.3. So that would have been okay, a good time to use a calculator. Here, distributed probability first. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/5 of 15 is 3m. Negative is positive again, and 1/5 of 10 is 2c, right? So again, 1/5 times 15, if you simplify, you get 3, and that's how I got that 3, and then 1/5 times 10, simplify, and that's how I got that 2. Plus 9m, this one is even easier, and combine these two terms, they're positive 12m plus 2c. Not much different, so multiply these two, distributed property. 8 times 1/3, so you get 8 times 1/3. Put it over 1, and it becomes just 8 over 3. 8 over 3y minus, because it's a positive and a negative, and 8 times 2.1, 2.1 times 8, you get 16.8. Can you leave your answer like this? You can, but if your multiple choice isn't written in a, what do you call this, mixed numbers, then you will have to change 3 over 8. 3 goes into 8 2 times, 2 left over, and 60.8. So depending, they're both correct. And if it's a multiple choice, just obviously you would have to change this so that you know what it looks like as a mixed number. Next one is 3 times 7/5. 3 times 7 is 21. I can't simplify before multiply. This is over 1, and that's 5. So again, 21 over 5x, and then plus, because they're both positives, and 2 times 1 times 3 is 6.3. Again, just like the last problem, you can leave it like this, but if you don't find this representation as one of your multiple choice answers, maybe you might need to change to this. Okay, so that's it. Same thing. Still applying distributed property. In this one, we have distributing and combining. So let's do these two. Negative and negative is a positive, and two fractions, but I can't simplify. So it's going to be 1/4 times 1/3, which is going to give me 1/12a. Negative and negative is a positive again, and then I'm going to multiply 1/4 times 15n. Nothing to simplify. Put the 15 over 1, so that's going to give me 15 over 4n. And the last one is a negative times a positive, which is a negative. And if you multiply, so I just did this, I'm going to multiply 1/4 times 3. 1/4 times 3, nothing to simplify again, so it's going to be 3 over 4. So 3 over 4, and then finally minus 8a. So the only two terms I can combine, and I'll rewrite these two. So it's 1 over 12a minus 8a equals 50, not equals, plus 15 over 4n minus 3/4. So these two are just going to hang out there. So I need to combine these two. So 1/12 minus a. You can. So let me just do this on the side. You can think of this as 1/12 plus negative 8. So definitely more negative, so I know my negatives are here. So imagine, right, if you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pies, and you took little. So from the last pie, so let me make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pizza pies, and somebody came over here, cut this pie into 12 parts, right? Well, let me actually make 12 parts. And took this pizza, right? So I'm just making it a little bigger. So that's half, that's fourths, that's 2. What do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, geez. You know what? I'm making a circle, which I shouldn't have done. Make it rectangle. So imagine if I had 8 rectangular pizzas. 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all the same size, obviously. 7, and the last one I'm just gonna make it a little bigger. So, and that pie had, what do I have here? 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the last pie here, I took 1/12, and let me shade that blue here. So if I took that one slice, so you have 8 negative slices, 8 negative pies, and you took one of these guys out. So I still would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slices, 7 pies, 7 full pies, represent the negatives. Okay, and then how much of the last pie, of that 8th pie, would I have left over? Well, they were cut into 12s. You took one, so I have one left over. So that's one way of thinking about that. So that last part would be -7, 11 over 12, which plus 5, is there a variable? Yes, there is. A plus 15 over 4n minus 3/4. I need to do the street product between the 2 and the 6b and the -1/3, so 8 over 5. B will just stick around. Positive and negatives are negative. 2 times 6 is 12b. Positive and negatives are negative again, and 2 times 1/3 is going to be just 2/3. I can combine these two guys right here. So a lot of choices. You can change, you can find a common denominator, you can change this to a mixed number and subtract it from 12. I honestly don't know what you would prefer. You know what, let's change. So let me take this 8/5 minus 12. So I know my answer is already something 2/3 and something b, right? So let's figure that out. So let's change that to a common denominator. So if you find a common denominator, it would be 5. That's already a 5, so no changes. This would be times 5 and the top times 5, and that gives you 60. 8 minus 60, it's going to give us, well, the 5 is going to stay, and it's going to give us -54. And if you change this to a mixed number, 5 goes into 54 10 times, 4 left over 5. So it's going to be -10 and 4/5. That's one way you could have definitely done it. Another way you could have done this, okay, I don't even, well, you have a calculator, so, but another way you could have done this is change this guy to a mixed number. So 5 goes to 8 one time, and you have, how many left over? 3/5, and which means I did something over here wrong, because this should have been 10 and 2/5. Let me do it again. So if I subtract these two, right, it's going to give me -10 and 2/5, right? Why is it that I got a different answer doing the other way? I'll find out. Put over 1, it's going to be 5, 8, 5 again, times 5 is 60, and I get 54 over 5. 5 goes into 54 10 times, and I have 4/5 left over. What am I doing wrong? -10. 50, 54, and if I do it, let me just have that 8/5 minus 12. Let me change that to a mixed number. It's going to be 1 3/5 minus 12, which is oh, it's 52 here. Sorry, 52. Okay, 52. So it's 2/5. So I Right. That was my mistake. Okay. Found it. This one is just combining. Let's remove the parentheses, so there's nothing over here. It's, you know, to think of it as positive or plus 1. And if you multiply everything, positive 1 times everything inside, it comes out exactly the same. But when there's a minus sign in front of the parentheses, everything that's inside comes out opposite. So 8w comes out as negative 8, plus 23m comes out as negative 23m. If you were to distribute properly, you'll see why. Combine like terms, this guy is this guy. It's a negative 12w minus 8w. And then negative 7m and negative 23m gives you negative 30m. Factor completely. So again, if you're having difficulties with the ones that we gotta factor out, also pull out the common variable. I will discuss it on Monday a little bit more. So here, this one is easy. 5 and goes in 25 5 times minus 1. So to factor this out, it would have been 5k minus 1. I can double check, and that equals my original expression. Over here, I pull out the 8 because that's the biggest number they have in common, and they also share an mw in common. So I can pull out the m and pull out the m because the m appears in both terms, and so does the w. So inside, what can I multiply this 8mw to get amw? It's going to be 1. What can I multiply 8mw to get 32mw? Well, it's going to be 4. So my factor expression is going to be, I made a mistake here, but my factor expression is going to be 8mw. If I multiply these two, I get this. If I multiply these two, I get this. In fact, actually, I should. Yeah, forget it. Just leave that alone. Next one. Again, think of a number you can pull out. The greatest common factor between 45, 27, and 3 is 3. Is there anything else I can pull out? I can pull out a k because k appears in all of them. So 3k, this is what they all share in common. 3 times what would be 45? It would be negative 15. And 3. So what do I multiply 3k by to get this guy over here? Well, definitely times 15, and definitely time, and I have to put an a as well. Minus 3 times what's 27 is 9. Do I need to put a k here? No, because I already have it, so that stays. And 3k times what is 3k is just 1. Final answer looks like this. Minus 9 minus 1, and again, I should have never given you this like this because I could have combined 27k and negative 3k. So, but just pretend, just for practice. Here, pull out a number that's the greatest. So the greatest, and again, you know, I'll do it in 2 steps. Let's pull out a 4 and also pull out a y. 4 goes into 12 3 times, and it will be an x here. Right? So these two multiply will give me this. Minus, and 4 times what's 36 times y? And do I have to put another y here? No, because there's already 1. Can I continue? I can. I can pull out a 3 this time. 3 times what is negative 3? It would be negative 1x. And 3 times what is 9? It would be negative 3. So the greatest common factor is the product of these two. If I multiply these two, I get 12y, and inside the parentheses I'm going to write negative 1x, or just negative x minus 3. I can again double check and multiply these two. Do I get negative 12xy? I multiply these two. Do I get negative 36y? And if you do, you're good. If you don't, go back and check. Never-ending number, jeez. What can I pull out here? What's in common? So here, in common, it's 11. 11 goes into 55 negative 5 times. And then plus negative 121. 11 goes to 121 11 times. So this would look like this. Last one. It would be 3, I think. 3 goes into negative 6, negative 2b times. Negative 3 goes into negative 3, negative 1 times, negative p times. And 54 would be, I don't know, 18, negative 18k. Again, double check. Just ask yourself, if I apply this to your property, will I get my original expression? If you do, you're good. 10. So we're back to that notebook. Oh, it's a notebook now. So I bought notebooks. Each notebook costs $245. Binders cost $450. Write an expression to represent the total cost of buying N amount of notebooks and B amount of binders. So if I go into a store and each notebook that I buy is going to cost $2.45, and I bought N of them, which represents a number that I know, so I'm going to multiply 245 times N. I'm also buying binders, and the binders cost $450, and I'm going to multiply that by the number of binders that I buy, which in this case is represented by B. So 245 times however many notebooks plus 450 times however many binders I buy would give me my total. So this is part 1. I need this expression. Part 2, I'm giving you how many notebooks and binders you're going to buy. So it would be 2.45 times, and I'm buying 6 notebooks, plus 4.50 times 4 binders you're buying. So calculator time, or just multiply it out, up to you. 245 times 6 is going to be our first. It's going to be $14.70. 450 times 4, 450 times 2 is 9. Double that, you get 18. And you should get a total of $32.70. Oops. That's my total cost. It's a lot of money. Write 2 expressions, and you got to be careful with this. You know, depending on the expression, and I didn't say that in the previous video. I think I meant to say simplified expressions, or sometimes they say that one of the expressions have to have a what do you call, parentheses. So so one expression with parentheses and one it's a simplified, a simplified expression. All right, so it's a triangle, and each equilateral, so all the sides measure the same. So if I want 2 different expressions that represent the perimeter of this triangle, one of them could be this, and again, one simplified and one with parentheses. So let's start with the one with parentheses. An expression that I can use to describe this using parentheses would be, well, the perimeter is all these 3 added up together, or 3 times one of the sides, right? Because in this case, they're all the same measurement. So that's one expression. A simplified one would be, well, I can take these 2, get 18m, and 3 times 4 is 12. So this would be the simplified version. Now, if you wrote 6m plus 4 plus 6m plus 4 plus 6m plus 4 to represent the perimeter of this triangle, it's not incorrect. It's definitely not incorrect, okay? But if they're asking for an expression that has parentheses, then you would write it in this way. So you would take this, change it to this, and then if they wanted a simplified version, obviously you would combine the like terms. And if you see this, if you combine like terms, you would get 18m, because 6m plus 6m plus 6m is 18, and then 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. So these would be the 2 expressions that you would need to come up with. Okay. So the width of a rectangle, so let's draw this. The width is 3x minus 1. So let me call this 3x minus 1, which means this side is 3x minus 1. The length is twice the width. So the length here, obviously, is 2 times the width. So the length is 2 times. Do I know what the width is? Yes, it's represented by this expression. So it's 2 times whatever the width is. So if that's 2 parentheses times 3x minus 1, this is also 2 times 3x minus 1. So this is my rectangle represented with expressions like that. So, and write an expression simplest for it to represent. So now I gotta add this, right? Because I want the perimeter, so I want to add all this. And so let me write 2 parentheses Length of the rectangle is what? Is twice the width. Okay. 2 times 3x minus 1 plus 2 times 3x minus 1. And, I'll just write it like that. Plus 3x minus 1 plus 3x minus 1. And then I'll show you what I should have done. One thing I could have done before I wrote this long expression is I could have, or I should have, instead of 2 times, well, this is, right, it's twice the width, but this, if I apply the distributive property, doesn't this become 6x minus 2? And this is also 6x minus 2. So I remove the parentheses right away because I'd rather use that. And I can remove all this. So now if I want to find the perimeter, it makes life much easier because the perimeter would be this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. So it's 2 times 6x minus 2 because there's 2 of them, top and bottom, plus 2 times the width, which is represented by 3x minus 1. It just makes life a little shorter. Multiply, I get 12x minus 4. This will be plus 6x minus 2. If I combine like terms, this 12x and plus 6x becomes 18x. And minus 4 minus 2 becomes negative 6. So this is 18. The length of the reference expression in simplest form. Oh, geez, I'm doing a lot of things here that I shouldn't be doing. Well, but anyways, let me go back. So they wanted this twice, 2 times 3x minus 1, which represents the length, right? So they were looking for the length, first of all. And this is what you get for not reading the problem. So I know that the width was 3x minus 1. So the length was twice that, right? So if you left it like this, you would have gotten half point maybe, but because the simplified version would be 6x minus 2, which is what I had, okay? But for some reason, I'm doing perimeter. So I know that the length is represented by 6x minus 2, the width is 3x minus 1. Now, I needed to find the perimeter. Good. So the perimeter is what I was doing, which is 2 times 6x minus 2 because there's 2 of them, and 2 times 3x minus 1 because there's 2 of them. So the perimeter is represented by this expression, 18x minus 6. Now, the other thing they said is, now that you know what the perimeter, what expression represents the perimeter, take that and find what the perimeter is if x equals 5. So 18x minus 6, substitute. 18 times 5 is 90, minus 6 is going to give us 84 centimeters. Okay, and that should have been it. And that's that.